Okay, so I think we'll get started. I think we've got about 60 people in the room at the moment. So kia ora, everyone, and thank you and welcome to another Good to Know webinar from Healthcare Plus. I'm Alan Sharp, and I'll be your host for tonight. I'm excited to be joined this afternoon by two experts in the world of retirement income, and that's Ralph Stewart and Chelsea Devlin from Lifetime Retirement Income. Lifetime Retirement Income's purpose is to help people enjoy their retirement with the security of an income for their life through their retirement. Ralph's the founder, and he began researching retirement income products back in 2013 and has been developing and enhancing them ever since. We know this is a huge issue amongst our members and the New Zealand public at large, as we seem to focus a lot on building our savings up for retirement, but there's not a lot of information or options or resources or products around how to make those savings last. And so we're now hearing about the retirement income gap that's beginning to sort of grow. So Chelsea and Ralph are going to give us their expert insight into this topic. And they're also going to answer some of the many questions that we've received leading up to this presentation. And we'll be digging into them in the sort of second half of the webinar as I put the questions to my guests. However, if you do think of anything or anything sparks your imagination during the presentation and you want to ask anything that comes to mind, then please go ahead and do that. And that sort of takes me into, I guess, the housekeeping. If you look at the top of the screen, you will see chat and QA functions. Just click one of those and the screen's open to the right, and then you'll be able to either type in your question or use the chat functionality. I'll monitor the Q&A and chat functionality as we go through the presentation. And once we've gone through the main Q&A part of the session, if there's any time at the end, then we'll pick some of them and go through them too. If we don't have enough time to answer all of those questions, then we'll also collate all of the questions at the end, get them answered, and then we'll email them out to everyone once post the webinar. We will also be recording this, and so we will also be posting a copy of this webinar out to everyone too, so that you can either look at it again or pass it on to any friends and family that you think might be interested. Before we start though, I'd like to just do a quick poll. And you can either access it from the chat functionality, or if you can see the polls icon at the top of your board, then use it. The question is, are you confident that you have enough money to last your retirement? Yes, no, or I think there might be an unsure in there as well. So please, if you can, just click your answer into that, and then we can get a feel for how confident people are around their retirement income. Anyway, that's more than enough from me. I've spoken far too much, which is not unusual. So kia ora, Ralph and Chelsea. I will pass over to you for your presentation, and then I'll come back later with the Q&As. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I always like to try and put some hold music on while I try and fumble around as I share a screen, but I don't sing very well, so you just have to bear with me as I get it all set up from beginning. Alan, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. I always get nervous presenting in front of educators because I have terrible grammar. So I'm going to apologise from the outset. I used to work at a school a very long time ago, and my grammar does not meet the standards of educators. So welcome along to your retirement. We're going to say from the outset that your retirement is unique to you. So this presentation, while we'll talk about concepts and guidelines, please note that it's your retirement, and this, what we talk about, is not personalised to anyone in particular. What we do say though is, you know, if you are seeking to have someone look at your personal financial plan as you head into retirement, there's some wonderful financial advisors out there, and it is a really good idea to seek financial advice if you'd like support. You know, if you're worried about how much it's going to cost, have a chat to the advisor, ask them what the costs are up front. It's normally not what you think. So do have the conversation. It is worth it. Right. Heading into retirement can seem like a bit of a black hole. It's scary, and there are many, many what ifs as you head into there. It can cause many reactions to people, such as those who won't retire and the other people who won't spend any money once they hit retirement. However, here at Lifetime, we believe these two options of not retiring and stopping spending money altogether once you get to retirement are absolutely not an option. Here at Lifetime, we take the approach of giving people the confidence to retire and permission to spend in retirement. So, I first thought we should start with what we know and what we can control when we get into retirement. We control when we retire, and that's really important because there's a misconception out there that at 65, that is retirement age. 65 is the age you're eligible for New Zealand Super. This is not an official retirement age. You can retire earlier or later. Start thinking about 65 plus as when you have choices. You have the choice not to work. You have the choice to work full time. You have the choice to work part time or the choice to do volunteer work. You might choose to go do another type of job, something that you've always enjoyed, such as working in a bookstore, if we still have them around. If you do make the choice to work past 65, don't leave your retirement too late, because those are the years that you worked hard to get to, and you should enjoy them. The other thing we know is that New Zealand Super will cover some of our costs once we head into retirement. Now, there is a small number of people out there that can live on New Zealand Super alone, and that's very admirable, but we don't expect that for everybody. That is not the reality. We also know that once you hit 65, the cost of transport does go down because of the gold card. And if you don't travel on peak hours, you do get public transport free. The other side of it is when you do stop working regularly, you don't have the daily commute, which will also reduce your expenses. And travel can be an expensive part of your budget. The other thing that we can control is embracing being 65. You know, too many people get embarrassed about having to get a gold card and getting free public transport. However, I say bring it on. And so should everybody else. There are so many discounts out there for seniors. And I know people don't want to see themselves as a senior, but 65 is young. So you get free public transport. A lot of the times you get discounted movies, discounted shows, discounted recreational activities. There's a community service card, which reduces the cost of medical expenses. So one thing I will highly recommend is when you get to 65 and embrace all the discounts, go on the Gold Card website. I believe there's many discounts at Noel Leeming's. There's certain days you can shop at Countdown to get a discount. See what's available and take advantage of it. The other thing we know and that we can control when we head into retirement is our budget. So doing a budget and having something down on paper, once it's there, you can control those numbers and where they go. And it's something I know Liz Coe, who's involved with Healthcare Plus as well, highly promotes. So definitely make sure the budget's there. So as we go out of what we know and can control, we can head into the light. So get out of the dark and get ready to retire with confidence. That's our mantra here at Lifetime. So once you've got your budget, you've got your New Zealand Super, you've got your gold card, now it's time to have fun. But wait, you all tell me, my expenses are greater than New Zealand Super. I've done my budget. I can't afford to live on my budget with New Zealand Super. And we hear you. So today we're here to talk about that income gap and the gap between what you get from New Zealand Super and your actual living costs. And I'm going to do it through an example. And hopefully this gives you a sense, but this is not the only option. As I said, there's multiple options out there. So meet Janice. She's 69. Janice worked a couple of years past 65 to ensure she could pay off her mortgage. So she is now mortgage free. She's got a retirement income nest egg of 250K. She is single and living alone, so we know that her New Zealand Super payments are 992. She's done a budget and her actual day-to-day costs are 1432 a fortnight. So we know that Janice is 69, she's single, she's female, she's mortgage free. She has saved 250K. She's getting New Zealand Super every fortnight of 992, and she's got an income gap of 440. That's where we come in. So what do we know about Janice? As I mentioned, the age. We know also that she's taxed at 17.5 for her investment side of her tax, and she's female. Now, one of the important things to note is the reason we say she's female is because females do live longer. We do need our money to stretch about 2 years longer than a male. So we should get paid more. So we know these things about Janice. But Janice does have options. So when we look at Janice can look at her life expectancies. And with Lifetime, we offer her 3 life expectancies. Now, you'll note that with these, they all go into her 90s. Even though at the age of 69, her life expectancy is 87. However, we at Lifetime know that when she has her 80th birthday, that her life expectancy is going to be 90. So at Lifetime, we prepare for that day because Janice is going to celebrate her 80th and she's going to have a great time. And we've planned for her to get there and some more years at a minimum. So that's the shortest life expectancy we put on the table. Don't get us wrong. I often hear people scoff at the thought of living into their 90s. But some of you out there are thinking about the age of your parents currently or when they did pass away. And personally, my grandfather passed away at 94. My mum will probably go till 96. So I'm probably going to go with the longer life expectancy personally, and that would be taking it out to age 99. How about you, Ralph?
I think age 99 sounds great, particularly given I might die younger.
Now, we also know that Kiwi women underestimate how long they're going to live by 7 years and Kiwi men by 5 years. So think about that once you've thought about how long you think that you need your money to last for, and maybe add 5 or 7 years to that and see what number you get after that. So, but we're going to talk about Janice today, and she's a typical Kiwi. She's gone for the shorter life expectancy, and she's going to try and have her money stretch out till 92. She's also thought about the age of her mother, and her mother didn't make it into her 90s. So Janice right now is really comfortable with her choice. Janice gets another choice. And what you see is 2 graphs. And what we offer here at Lifetime and is the suggestion that you can spend more earlier in your earlier years of retirement. The reason we do that is approximately 40% of people aged in their 60s and 70s will live to their mid-80s. For this reason, we give you the option to maximize your spending earlier in retirement. This means giving you more to spend in retirement and then resetting at the age of 85 out to your expected life expectancy. So Janice can either go with a step version, which means from the age of 69 to 84, she could get $450 a fortnight. And then when she hits 85, she can drop down and get $315 a fortnight. Or she could go with the smoothed option, which has no step, and just get $417 a fortnight across all her years. Now, for Janice, she's decided that her earlier years, she's going to go out for way more coffees. So she needs more money earlier. And so she's going to spend more earlier in retirement and maximize as much of it as possible. Janice has one more other option, and this is a big subject everywhere at the moment, inflation. Now, should Janice add inflation to her income option? Here at Lifetime, we know that inflation is running at 6 to 7% at the moment. We don't offer a 6 or 7% inflation adjustment. However, what we do is through our economist, Cameron Bagri, who sits on our investment committee, we've come to an agreement that over a 20 to 30 year retirement, someone's inflation should be about 2%. So if you can see on the right, we've done an inflation version for Janice that she could use for her income payments. So it would mean that at 69, she would start on $370. And if you see on the left, if she didn't have inflation, she would start at $450. So every year she would get, with the inflation adjusted, she would get a 2% increase. And that would just take the heat off the inflation. It doesn't solve the whole inflation issue, particularly right now. And as you can see, when she hits 84, she would be getting $498 a fortnight. And then if she's still picking to jump it down, she'd get $350 and then should start to climb again, as you can see. However, our Janice has decided that because she's got New Zealand Super and it's going to cover about 70% of her day-to-day expenses, and that is CPI adjusted. She doesn't need the other 30% to be CPI adjusted. However, that is very unique to everyone. So Janice has decided not to go with inflation. So the great calculation, what we do here at Lifetime is we take everything that we have just spoken about and come up with an income. So we take Janice's specifics, which is her age and her gender and her tax code. We then add her choices. So Janice decided, number one, she wanted to live till 92, well, have her income last until 92. She wanted to have a stepped approach to her income, which means she's going to spend more earlier rather than later. And lastly, she decided that she did not want to inflation adjust. So we then added in the lifetime forecast. So what we put in was mortality, volatility, and life expectancy forecasts and returns. Out of that comes an income. So we go 1, 2, 3, and hey presto. So a retirement income solution for Janice. Now our calculator can do a number of different multiple depending on what Janice had picked, but she's picked this one. And so we've worked out that if she put $175K into the Lifetime Retirement Income Fund, we can generate her $450 a fortnight from age 69 through to age 84. At 85, because she's decided she wants to step it down at age 85, it'll go to $315 and it'll continue until she turns 92. And as you know, Janice had 250K. So she's got 175K with lifetime. She's decided to put 25K into cash, and the remaining funds she'll find a bit like the bucket situation that Liz Coe talks about. She might put some in growth or balance or conservative based on what she decides is best for her. She's also got a mortgage-free home of 750K. Now, for that, her income payments, those $450 a fortnight down to $350, she is going to get a total of 245K worth of income payments over a 23-year period. So 175K comes out and she gets 245K over 23 years in income payments. So finally, when we think about this, we go, I can imagine all the questions that are coming out. It's what if? Because we still have what ifs. Even if we set a plan, life is not on plan all the time. So let's talk about a couple of those what ifs. What if Janice wants to increase her fortnightly payments? Yes, that is absolutely possible. She could start on $450 and then decide, I want to be getting more a fortnight. This might mean she has to top up the amount of money that she's got in there. She might need to take it from 175 to 200, or she may need to shorten her expectations of how long that money can last. But it's all possible because it's her retirement. What if she wants to change her life expectancy outwards? So we know that she's chosen that she wants her money to last until she's 92. She can, in a few years' time, turn around to us and say, I'd like it to last till 99. And that is absolutely perfectly fine. It does mean that it will decrease her payments down. So that could bring it down to 425 if she is in her, remains at 175K. What if Janice meets someone? Well, the rules still apply. If you've been living with them for a certain period of time, it does mean that they might have a right to that. So make sure you've got some good paperwork if they move in. But equally, Janice can make that a joint income. And so what you can do is make Janice and Bob partners, and Janice and Bob receive the income. It also means that if one of them passes away, the income doesn't stop, unlike other situations where if it's under one name, you could be waiting for probate. So if Janice was in a relationship and their budget counted on Janice's fortnightly income and she passed away, unfortunately, those income payments would have to stop because of probate. So it's something to think about if you are with a partner, that having it under two people's name is really important. More what ifs. What if Janice goes traveling? I hope Janice goes traveling, but also you can pause your income payments. She might try to travel the world for 6 months, and that's perfectly fine. We can start and stop them because it's her retirement. What if there's market volatility? Well, that's what Lifetime does. We take volatility out of your income. What if Janice passes away? The money goes to the account balance goes to Janice's account. So whatever is on her account balance when she passes away will go to her estate. What if Janice needs to reduce her life expectancy? We have had that happen a couple of times where a prognosis doesn't go their way, and so maybe it's only 10 years that they've got, and we can help them maximize spending their money. We've also had some people ask us to ensure there's a certain amount left behind, and we can adjust the income to meet those requirements and special cases. What if Janice moves to Spain? I'd be very jealous. But if she does decide to up sticks and go to Spain and enjoy the good life, then we can, Janice can withdraw her account balance and take that with her. It is not stuck there. It is her money and it is flexible. Now, some of you guys are sitting out there going, that's all very good and well. Janice had some retirement savings, but I don't. Or my retirement savings are not as large as Janice. And here at Lifetime, that's really important to us because we want to help everyone. So I'm going to pass over to Ralph, who has been developing a product for a wee while, and it's about to come to market.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you, Alan and Dora. As Chelsea said, Lifetime really began as a concept back in 2013, where we could see there were not many retirement income options for Kiwis. There was term deposits, those sorts of things, perhaps a managed fund, but not a lot of choice, not a lot of security. And what we discovered was a key word in the retirement market, not a lot of certainty around income. So what Chelsea's presented is effectively the outcomes of our work to date. So we're helping thousands of retirees around New Zealand with an income they can rely upon, is certain, and is managed to last their lifetime. But again, as Mighty Chelsea said, that's only a part of the New Zealand retirement market. What about the rest? The rest who aren't fortunate enough to have a large retirement pot or a nest egg. The way I'm going to present this concept is a bit different to Chelsea. There's going to be no pink backgrounds, I guarantee you, and well-dressed women is definitely off the cards. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I'm going to present this a little bit as a quiz based on numbers. I hope you enjoy this. So the first number is 40%, and the clue is NZ Super. I wonder if you know that 40% of all retirees today above the age of age 65 have their home, they have NZ Super, and very little else. So their primary source of income is NZ Super. They're the ones that ask us so frequently, can you help me? Can you build, can you devise, can you consider a way to supplement my NZ Super when I don't have a lot of savings? So yes, we want to try and help. Okay. Why do you think they ask us that? It suggests that they obviously don't have enough money living off NZ Super. This number is, if you take Massey University's annual research, which is quite assumptive, so they're making assumptions about your spending habits, but nonetheless, if you lived in a city and a pretty basic lifestyle, the gap between having that lifestyle and NZ Super is $218.95 per fortnight. So how do we solve for that number? Well, you start to think about the construct of New Zealand history, and yes, you got it, our love affair with property. Of retirees in New Zealand today, we classify retirees at 65 plus, which we shouldn't really do. You know, retirement's when you retire, but nonetheless, we've got to start somewhere. 80% of those good folk own their own home. There is the clue. Okay. Now, these homes, New Zealand's love of property. And these two numbers here, the number on the left is what we call stock market capitalisation. A hell of a big word. That just means the value of all the companies on the stock market in New Zealand today is 210 billion. And in the side of the business that Chelsea's talked about, we invest some of our investors' money in that stock market to help generate a return to pay their income for life. On the right-hand side is 1,400 billion. I believe that's a trillion something. It's too big for me, but that's the current value of the New Zealand housing stock. So why aren't we unlocking that asset to help people who want to supplement their income in retirement? Surely we should try. Now, there are some products that do that. They're called reverse mortgages. I'm not advocating for reverse mortgage today. I'm trying to present and show you ways of using your home to supplement your retirement income. So that number there is 9.5%, as you can see. That is the interest rate charged by the largest provider of reverse mortgages in New Zealand. So just bear that in mind for a second, if you will. What happens is under a reverse mortgage, you might decide to borrow $100,000. What the provider does is then charge you 9.5% for as long as you have borrowed that money for. And then when you do finally pay it back, you pay that money back plus the interest applied. So in this situation, we take a 9.5%, apply it to $100,000 every year for 10 years. The homeowner that borrowed $100,000 in 10 years' time would owe $195,000. Hope that's clear. Now, there's a bit of a problem with that. It's called variable interest rates. Those of you through your working lives who have had mortgages will understand that mortgage rates change. That's one of the biggest challenges in life, knowing what rate to have, what rate to hold, and what rate to fold. So in this simple illustration, we know that the organisation that's offering the 9.5% variable rate for their home equity release product has in the past offered the same thing at 7.5 and an 8.5. Who's to say it won't be 10.5 and 11.5 in the future? So this feature of reverse mortgages is, we think, the biggest thing that worries retirees, regardless of reverse mortgages or anything else. It is the personification of uncertainty. If a retiree enters a contract like this, they don't know how much of their home they'll keep because of the variable interest rate. So we tried to set out and think about it differently. Can we provide some certainty and some income and use the home? The other area of uncertainty is home appreciation, because obviously with a reverse mortgage, you store the interest in the background, which is eventually paid when you sell the asset and repay the loan. Homes go up in value. This is the average increase in residential house prices over the last 20 years. Obviously moves around a lot during that time, but the long-term average is 6.3%. But this also contributes to uncertainty, because we don't know what it's going to be next year. This uncertainty thing, in the heart of what we're trying to suggest and working through and researching and considering, is to be able to give people the opportunity to use their home, unlock some value, supplement their income, have a better life, and at the same time not suffer from uncertainty. So let's share with you what we've come up with. First thing is, we've got to think about this damn thing differently. It is not a reverse mortgage. 9.5%, 7.5%, or 11.5%, whatever it is, let's get rid of the interest rate. Let's get rid of debt. So let's think about this as being equity. And you know the difference? Debt is what you owe, equity is what you invest in. So we've set out to build a model that suggests that we might be able to buy a portion of your home over a 10-year period, normally from age 70 to 80. And we'll purchase 3.5% per year, each year for 10 years. So when you're retired from age 70 to 80, we'll be buying a little bit a year. But while we're doing that, you will know that at the end of 10 years, there is no uncertainty. There is only certainty. You will own 65% of your property regardless, and we'll own a little bit with you. We'll be a co-owner with you. So how does that work? It simply means that no interest is charged, no interest is accrued, and there is no variable rate. You allow us to own 3.5% of your house every year for 10 years, and in exchange for that, we effectively are buying 2.5% of the property. Let me exchange that or explain that in numeric terms. So let's say your house is worth $900,000. We would be able to, over the 10-year period, pay you $225,000 or $865 per fortnight for 10 years. So in simple terms, we're sharing part of the equity in your home with you. We're paying for that equity in equal installments. Every fortnight when you get your NZ Super Check, you'll get a payment from Lifetime as well. You will always own the property, always be able to be the occupier. After 10 years, you stay in your home for as long as you like. If you choose to leave your home before 10 years, that's absolutely fine. There's just less paid to you during that time. So what we're trying to do at Lifetime is to provide solutions for homeowners who don't have a lot of other cash and give them the opportunity to unlock their equity with certainty and comfort and have a better life in retirement. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ralph. So that's the end of our presentation there. In terms of looking at, let me just stop sharing that for you, putting some music on. This product in particular will start to be available in October. So we recommend going to our website and registering your interest if that's something you'd like to know about. And on the website also is the income calculator, which you can play around with and try as many inputs and variables as you like. That is at lifetimeincome.co.nz. So we'll hand back over to Alan.
Thanks, guys. Wow, that was quite interesting, actually. I didn't realize there was a difference between reverse mortgages and this idea here. So thanks for that. I mean, it's interesting because there was a lot of questions from our registered viewers around reverse mortgages. So I don't know if you wanted, I mean, I know you talked a little bit about it, but a lot of the questions were kind of like, well, what's the pros and cons of reverse mortgages, and how's yours different? How's this new idea different? So maybe just go back over that again, because I think it's an interesting concept, and I know it's something that I've just come back from Europe, and it's back from the UK in particular, and there's a lot of advertising and a lot of noise around this type of stuff. So I think it's worthwhile just going through it a little bit more again.
Okay, Alan, and thank you. And very aware that we've been thinking about this for some years, so we sort of drop into that place where we're pretty knowledgeable about it and other people aren't. So I apologise if we've gone too fast or been trying to be too detailed or complicated. As Alan said, the two really very distinct models. One uses debt and one uses equity, which are confusing words of themselves. So let's just talk about a reverse mortgage. So a reverse mortgage, and I think in a very human and emotional sense, people tend to think of reverse mortgages as being the last resort. And by and large, for some people, using their retirement savings first and then using their house later is probably a sensible thing to think about. And what we're trying to do at Lifetime is provide as many solutions for as many different needs as possible. But for some people, they just don't have that comfort or opportunity because they have their home and very little savings. So for them, a reverse mortgage is a very real and sensible opportunity. If they take out a standard reverse mortgage, they would tend to take a lump sum. They could convert that lump sum into income, but they might use the lump sum for something they could never have afforded before. A new car, a holiday, alterations to the house, things like that. And that tends to be a fairly big number. It might be somewhere between $50,000 or $100,000 or more. When you apply a variable interest rate to a rather big loan, the interest accrues pretty quickly. As we showed with the 9.5%, over a 10-year period, borrowing $100,000 becomes almost $200,000, which the homeowner must deduct from the proceeds of their home when they sell their home. And as we tried to show with a 6.3%, we don't know what the value of their home is going to be. So the homeowner is faced with a situation of having $100,000 in year one, owing $200,000 in year 10, and not knowing what their house is worth. So it's an option that works. It is out there and it's fine, but we wanted to try and find something else that gave people more certainty. So we've gone down a completely different route and said, we're not going to lend you anything. Mm-hmm. We like your house, and it's your house. It'll always be your house. You can live in your house for the rest of your life. But for a period of 10 years, we'll buy a little piece of your house, then pay that to you as a regular income on Super Tuesday. So you'll get an income supplement based on selling a small part of your house for the next 10 years. So I hope the distinction between the two options is clearer now, and apologies, Alan.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to, just so that people got that that distinction. I think it's quite important because this is quite a neat idea, and I know reverse mortgages have been around for a while. Okay, that's cool. Someone's also said, if I have a company share apartment, can I use equity in this? And then somebody also said on the chat, let me just check. do joint homeowners have to both be over 70 to make use of the home equity offer? We have an 11-year gap. So I guess there's two questions there around company share apartments and then the age and difference of ages.
Got it. Thank you, Alan. On the company shares, we're learning. This will be the first of its type, as Chelsea says, will be out and about in the marketplace in October, initially for existing lifetime customers. So the nature of the ownership of the property is really important, because we're going to be buying a small piece of that ownership for 10 years. So we're just starting with a very simple home ownership model, where it's not a company share, it's not an apartment, it's simply an unmortgaged residential property. We might be able to move to company share later, but in our first phase, as we learn, we've just got a pretty simple offer. So to participate, you need to be mortgage free in a property probably that's 50-50 land buildings in terms of its valuation. We are working through that, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible. The second question, which again is really helpful to everybody listening, is for this to work, we have to make some assumptions about, as Chelsea was talking about, mortality. So the reason we've got the 70 minimum age for the couple in the home, so the youngest person in the home has to be 70, is we have to make assumptions about how long you might live in that home. So to do that, we can look at the mortality tables and see how long a 70-year-old might live. So for example, if we had 10 people who are working with us, we own some of their home, we're paying them income, we know not all 10 will reach 80. Some will pass away along the way and they will sell their home. We will take our small portion of the home, put it back in the bucket and give it to the next person. So over time, as we learn more about mortality, we might be able to come back from 70, but for now we need to start at 70 because we're more confident of the mortality statistics at 70.
Cool. There's been a number of questions and a couple of things come up on the chat as well, because clearly people, quite rightly, are risk averse with regards to their retirement savings and now potentially their home equity. And one of the original questions that was asked was, what do we ask and look for to secure to ensure the security of our hard-end retirement funds we invest or in trust? These are funds we cannot risk losing through careless investment decisions. And we've also had things like, well, someone has said in the chat, over the last 10 to 20 years, many fund companies have come and gone, and we've lost money through liquidation and stuff like that. So what have you got to say around, I guess, the ongoing risk or appeasing people's worries around those kind of things?
Okay, if I start the job?
Yeah, you go, yeah.
A good and a deep question, Alan.
That's what they're asking.
Might need to break that down a bit. It's a really helpful question for everybody online. So we're going to approach it from a couple of angles. So the first one is called prudential regulation. So in other words, that's the role the state plays in ensuring investor funds are kept safe. And in New Zealand over the last 20 years, that's changed dramatically. Many people on the webinar today will remember the finance companies and the debacle that was, and the hundreds of millions of dollars lost because the disclosure regime and the, if you like, safety rails around that product were not strong enough for consumers. So the first line of defense is regulation itself. So under the current structure in New Zealand, most investments offered to retirees will be what's called a PIE, a portfolio investment entity. And in that situation, the investor's money is kept entirely separately from the fund manager's money. So if something happened to the fund manager, the investor's money can never be touched and will always be held safely, and it's managed by a supervisor or a trustee, for example, the public trust. So that's kind of first line of defense. Second line of defense is just being sensible. If high returns are being offered, there is a reason for that. That's high risk. So always getting some financial advice, would argue, is a good thing to do, to make sure that the investments that you do hold are appropriate for your age, stage, and your position in life. Third line of defense is, and again, it's a financial planning question, so I'm not answering in a financial planning concept, It's really good. And I know it's boring and it's often very difficult to sit down at the kitchen table and face facts, but a little bit of planning. Chelsea talked about the buckets, which is a great analogy. Just identifying what is the income you'd like to have for the rest of your life, and just being real with yourself about that. You and your partner, perhaps you and your partner and the kids and the dog all sitting around working that out. Once you know that, we can calculate how much capital you'll need. And as you heard today, some people have capital, some don't, and trying to solve that problem first. And if there's, if we do that sensibly, the second bucket is putting some money away for a rainy day, for that unforeseen circumstance. It may even be related to your health. And that third bucket, way out further, is if you did want to potentially leave another bucket of money to your family or someone else. So we'd argue they're the three lines of defence that should help to give people certainty about investing in retirement.
Cool, thank you. I mean, I like that buckets theory. I've heard that a lot. I'm just learning the buckets theory. Of course, I'm getting close to retirement myself, so it's becoming more and more aware. I'm becoming more and more aware of the bucket theory. Another question, because a lot of us have got KiwiSaver. And so there were a few questions around KiwiSaver, but I think the key one that came across a few times was, what do I do with my KiwiSaver after 65? And what are the tax repercussions of drawing down and using my KiwiSaver after 65?
Oh, no, you go.
Again, these are really helpful questions for everybody. KiwiSaver, it's just been transformational for New Zealand. It's a fantastic product, but it's about saving. It's not particularly designed for spending. We talked about the regulator before. Just recently, the regulators required KiwiSaver providers to, when they send an annual statement to their customers, to make an estimate of how much income they will get in retirement, which is a good thing. But because you might have seen before, the complexity around longevity and how long you might live in mortality, in that calculation, they assume every single New Zealander will die the day they turn 90. It just doesn't work. So the key thing when you're considering drawing out of your KiwiSaver is to get some help around what level of income you should draw down, and acknowledge that if you're taking money regularly out of your KiwiSaver, which is fine, that may change through time. It's not set and forget. You're going to have a wee calculation every year to make sure you stay on track and don't, run out of money and still be alive. So it's just managing the complexity of drawing down out of KiwiSaver. The big risk is people think that it's too easy. On the tax side, we talked before about a portfolio investment entity. Most KiwiSavers are pies. So the individual who's drawing their income out of their KiwiSaver can do so at the tax rate that's most appropriate for them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, cool. We've got about 5 minutes left, and there was a few questions around when earlier on, Chelsea, you were talking about budgets and stuff like that. And some people are asking, and there's been a few notes in the chat as well, around how do I actually go about calculating how much I will need weekly in retirement? I mean, how do I go about calculating my budget? And I know there was a couple of people mentioned, and I've used it in the past, in my past life, the Massey University study as well, that's particularly useful around your sort of outgoings as you sort of get older, different various levels of spendability. But maybe you can go through that a little bit more.
So I have a cheat sheet, which was authored by Liz Coe, and we actually have a buckets planning book, which starts with doing your budget. And so this actually steps out, and it's about 50 pages long, so it isn't for the faint-hearted, but it's a really great read, A, to give you some comfort, but B, to start writing down what your retirement looks like and your expenses look like, and then you start to filter your buckets from there. And so no one can turn around and say how much you're going to individually spend other than yourself. So this book, it guides you on how to do that. And so, yes, the Massey study is really, really good, but that is a study across a number of people. And the reality is that your lived experience will be different. You know, and like we say, your travel costs will go down when you're in retirement, but your coffee might go up because you meet so many people for a coffee. So it's starting to step that out. And so I do recommend, we'll send you a link, Alan, that you can send out to people, that this is a really good book to just walk through and help with planning, buckets, budgets, and supporting you to make those decisions.
Cool, awesome. Thanks for that. Well, that's actually probably a nice segue into just sort of talking through what's going to come next. So, first of all, I want to thank Ralph and Chelsea for giving us quite a good insight into what's lifetime retirement income are doing in this space, and at the same time giving us some insights into what we need to be thinking about and that kind of thing, and what's out there and what types of products are available. So thank you very much for that. That was really, really, really insightful and useful. Secondly, I want to say to everybody who's joined tonight, thank you very much. This has been recorded, and I know some people were having some difficulties, and we will be sending this out to everybody so that you can get a copy of this and you can see it again. We'll also be looking at all of the questions that we haven't had time to ask, and we will try and do a wrap up of that, and we will send that out too with the link to the Buckets book that Chelsea and Liz Cole, who is somebody that we know here at Healthcare Plus very well, have put together. So that's fabulous. So anyway, basically I'll just say have a good evening, everybody, and we'll see you at the next Good to Know webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.